it depends on, I would say, the qualifications of the employee.
Oh, okay.
So they're getting kind of the best work permit that they can get based on their the job classification that they can
Oh, okay.
qualify for. Yeah.
Okay. I understand now. So, for example, we see that so many people come to Ireland to get a job. Obviously, most of them they have degrees, they have different qualification. So I think that one question that is so interesting is what industries are most commonly covered by Irish General Work Permit? Are they doctors? Are they engineers?
No, they're not. I've actually seen people online in immigrant groups
Okay.
giving people immigration advice, and they don't know that there is such a thing as a general employment permit. They tell people that you have to be a doctor or you have to be an engineer or an IT professional, and otherwise you can't get an employment permit here, and you need to stay home in your home country, and that's not true.
Okay.
So as a very general rule, unskilled jobs are ineligible for employment permits, and highly skilled jobs that require advanced degrees are critical skills. So general is mostly in between those.
Okay.
So managers and HR people, or people with technical skills, or people with bachelor's degrees are usually getting a general employment permit.
So basically, this
Um,
is not that difficult to get a work permit if you don't have a degree.
there are a lot of classifications that we could get you a general employment permit for where you don't have a degree.
Okay.
You know, they um, a lot of um, a lot of construction related jobs, especially, used to be on the ineligible list until the minister started to realize, how bad the housing crisis was, and suddenly bricklayers are eligible for general employment permits, and plasterers and um, crane drivers and a lot of things that are involved in making a build site and putting up some houses.
Yeah,
So a lot of those guys don't have a bachelor's degree, but they
they have the
they
skills.
they have the skills. They were an apprentice to somebody. They've done it before. They did it in their home country, and they can do it here. So
So
and there
basically,
there are a few like that.
okay, so basically these conditions change like every few months that okay, now the country needs people that knows about construction. So now they are eligible to apply.
Yeah, yeah. Every couple of years, there's little adjustments.
So basically, where can I check this? Will be in the same website that we mentioned before.
Yeah, a different website on the enterprise.gov.ie will have the latest notices and developments. And they only post something there a couple times a year.
Okay.
But yeah, we can include a link to that too if people want.
Yeah.
Um, the lists of the jobs. Well, I guess that won't help. I guess that won't tell them all the eligible classifications. You'd have to talk to us about
Yeah.
all the eligible
Yeah, I think that,
classifications.
that's the best option because there are so many professionals out there. It's basically so difficult to put all of them in one website. So if you are not sure about your profession, if your profession is gonna be eligible for the work permit, the best option that you have at the moment is just ask a professional. You can send us an email, talk with one of our agents, and we will help you with this situation that probably you will be eligible and we can go forward. That if you can find information sometimes in the website, is better to ask someone who actually knows about the topic.
Yeah.
So, for example,
So I was going to say, like a lot of these people are also assisting critical skills people.
okay.
It's so they'll be kind of on the side working with the people that are on the super qualified people on the critical skills lists.
Oh,
So like dental assistants are going to be general work permits, legal assistants, um, you know, uh, IT assistant kind of jobs, or they'll have a simpler job like a tour guide or a phone customer service representative, but they're also fluent in the official language of a non-EU country. Um, a lot of applicants obviously are fluent in the official language of a non-EU country.
okay.
A lot of general permits holders are, like I said, construction people, or they might be marketing people. Um, a lot of people know how to do marketing and want to come here and do the jobs, and there just aren't that many people here coming out of Irish schools, who are doing that.
Perfect. So, for example, we know that obviously every person who gets a work permit, they get so many benefits. They can come to Ireland, they can earn some money and experience. But what are the benefits of obtaining an Irish General Work Permit for an employer? Is the employer gonna get any benefit because that employer has a employee with a General Work Permit?
Yeah. In some ways, it's easier to get approved because DETE isn't checking to make sure you're actually qualified for a certain really narrow classification. It also has a slightly lower minimum pay than a critical skills employment permit, which might make the difference for certain small businesses. If this is the fourth person they're hiring for their business, a couple €1,000 might make it possible. And so this permit is how most businesses, especially small businesses, are able to hire certain specialists or people with certain technical skills or language skills. There's a finite number of licensed coach drivers in Ireland, and Dutch coach drivers don't necessarily want to move here and maybe uproot their family to take that job. So this is how we get those people in and get those roles filled. Most employees are getting a better quality of life than where they're from and better career opportunities than they had in their home country.
So
yeah,
both parties get so many benefits from this. And obviously we know that we get so many benefits, but for example, if I have an Irish work permit, do I have any limitations or restrictions with that permit?
Yeah. So one is you can't bring your family until you've been working here for a year, as I mentioned. And once your spouse arrives, they're not going to be able to work unless they get their own employment permit, which they can. We would just have to do both of them for you. You can't own a business, and you can't own part of a business on the stamp that you get from this. You would have to be a stamp 4 for that.
So then I will have to go through a different process. We'll have to apply for a passport, or what would they have to do then?
No. Once you're a stamp 4, you could be a co-owner of a business, but you would have to just be working here for long enough. So as I said, if you're on a general, you'd be working here for 5 years before you get your stamp 4. If you're on a critical skills, you're here for 2 years, and you can be on a stamp 4. So if you're an engineer or something, if you're a software guy and you move here, you can work for your boss doing software stuff for 2 years, and then you can quit and start a new business, with one of your new friends here on the island. That's a topic for a different podcast. But you also can't, on a general, you can't leave your job during the first year. DET doesn't want you to. They know, they kind of want to recognize the sacrifice, I guess, that your employer is making in hiring a new person from overseas. Except in certain circumstances. So if the employer is, exploiting you in some way, and they're like, you have to live in the housing that I've provided, and I'm going to kick you out if you don't work, or if they're not paying you what they said they were going to pay, or if the job duties are really different from when you first started, and you started out as a software guy and now you're sweeping floors or whatever, you can say this isn't really what I signed up for, and then you can leave.
But then you can leave and literally just go to another job, or you have to notice the Department of Enterprise. Like, do you have to deal with this somehow, or you just can't change the job, or you have to give?
No, it is a process. Yeah. So I don't know anybody who has done this. I just know this is what the rules are. Okay. And everybody wants to know. Well, what happens if I lose my job, or if I quit my job? And they all want to know, but nobody's losing their job or quitting.
Yeah, I understand that they are doing a sacrifice coming here. So if they say that you have to stay at least 1 year, they will do it. And then after 1 year, they will decide if they want to stay within the company, or they just want to try different things. So
yeah. And you have to keep living up to all your visa terms. So you would, you have to have private health insurance and things like that. Otherwise, you could have your visa revoked and you would be sent back to your home country.
Okay, so we're talking here about that after 1 year you can change the job, after 2 5 years. So how long does an Irish general work permit typically last? And can I renew it if I want to, or I have to wait? How does it work? How is the process?
That's a good question. So most employers want the employee to work for them indefinitely.
Okay.
95% of the employment permits we work on are just for someone who has a role to fill, an indefinite role, and they want to fill that role.
Okay.
Your employment contract, DET, wants it limited to 2 years. So we can only get you an employment permit for 2 years. So that's what we almost always do, almost all the time.
Okay.
And so we get that done. And then as you're approaching the end of your 2 years, once you've got like 3 months left, you can come back to us and we will do the renewal for you. Where it's largely the same kind of form, same kind of process. They just want to check in on us, I guess, and make sure that the job is still there. It's still the same. They're still paying you the minimum, and that sort of thing. So we don't have to do another labor market needs test, which is nice. So then, and then we can renew them. We can just keep renewing them indefinitely. Actually,
Okay.
I mean, you could stay here the rest of your life getting a new work permit every 2 years if that's what you wanted to do. We don't usually renew more than a couple of times because after 5 years, you're eligible to apply for a stamp 4 and also apply for citizenship if you've been keeping track of the right documents. And that's something that you're interested in. You can apply and become an Irish citizen. That also takes a long time. Right now, as of this call, they're taking like 19 months to approve citizenship. So you could almost do a whole other 2-year work permit in that time.
So, for example, you just said that they need to keep track of the right documents. What does that mean? They have to keep the payslips, the contract of the rent or services. What does that mean to keep all the tracking?
Yeah, and we can. It might be good to have a call about citizenship requirements, but they've been simplifying it every year or two for a while, which is nice. So last year they had a fairly complicated point system. I actually printed out the point system and had it up on the wall here next to my desk so that I could remember, okay, how do we do this for kids? You get, this many points for doctor visits and this many points for your school attendance record and all these things. And so now it's a lot simpler, and we're basically just proving your identity with your passport and then proving residence with a few other things. If you've got like, your P60 form, your employee information kind of tax form, and then also like credit card statements or debit card statements from your Irish bank or Irish credit card, and they can see you've been using it in the country. You get some point of service charges on there that you're actually physically here buying things at the daybreak.
So basically, the more documents you have, the better.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to have more documents. Sometimes you look at your debit card and you can realize, oh, I didn't actually use this that much. And then you go, where's my lease agreements that from the last 5 years?
Yeah, it's good.
Did I save them? Are those still in my email somewhere? And you start digging around, and it might become a hassle. But keep track of your lease agreements, keep track of your credit card statements, keep track of your tax documents, and we'll see you after you've been here 5 years.